you can't do it by just firing Christopher Wray at the FBI or Anthony
100%
Fauci.
right. Yeah.
You have to break the apparatus. You have to shut it down. It's the only option. Now, there's always two risks, right? Do you not cut enough fat, in which case, you haven't cut enough, or do you cut too much that you take the risk of cutting muscle? Mm-hmm. I would take that risk over the risk of not cutting enough. Because if you have an 8-headed hydra and you cut off one of the heads, it grows right back. You have to gut it at its core. And absent that, no amount of reform is going to actually make that difference. And so that's why I was so passionate, animated, even running in a race against a man who I immensely admire, which I think I made abundantly clear over the course of the race. If you were watching, I respected Donald Trump immensely for his contributions to this country. I think it takes a businessman. He did something that nobody had ever else done. Yeah. The expression I used in the campaign trail was he rolled that log over and we saw what crawled out of that swamp,
100%.
Which I respected. But the contrast I was drawing from your father is, I want to come in and bring the pesticide now, right? There's a role for the guy to expose it.
I like that role. You have, listen, it's clear you've done the research. You understand where these things are. You understand who those things are. And you're right. It's not just Wray. I used to do the, often I'd be like, listen, we make a distinction between the door kickers and the bureaucrats at the top at the FBI. But like now I'm like, well, now you're arresting innocent people. You're breaking down their doors with machine guns. Like, when do you guys say enough is enough? Like, I've given you the hall pass for I'm just doing my job. But when you're doing your job, knowingly infringing on rights, when you're entrapping, some meth head to try to pretend there was a plot to assassinate and kidnap the governor of Michigan, like, it's all a lie. Like, when are you culpable? When do you lose the hall pass I gave you for you just doing your job, because you're no longer just doing your job?
So the next time I have a conversation with your father again, because I've been impressed by how receptive he has actually been to reasoned analysis and argument, I'm going to actually talk to him about the FBI, because, I know there was, he's talking about the new building. What are they going to do? Let's actually just get to the math of this. There's 35,000 employees at the FBI. Okay. 20,000 of them are the back office bureaucrats in the J. Edgar Hoover building and the other back office functions throughout the federal government. That's where the rot comes from. So firing Christopher Wray and giving him a new building, that's not going to get the job done. We have to shut it down. The 15,000 people who are the frontline cops, most of them are just following directives. Yeah. Don, I'd say let's move them to the U.S. Marshals or to the DEA, flawed as the DEA is, or to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network at the U.S. Treasury that goes after the SBFs of the world. So just take the line soldiers, and even if you move them to some of the agencies that have been corrupted, but for the J. Edgar Hoover building at the FBI, the institution itself, what I called the failed Bureau of Investigation, the 20,000 back office bureaucrats at the FBI, we have to be willing to do the hard thing and actually shut it down.